Let's start talking about what's new in this particular release that we've got here. The kind of three major themes here, and the first theme of where you're going to see some improvements is in the CMDB that's obviously part of Remedyforce. So let's talk about what they've done there. They've done some interesting things. They actually have an admin console now for the CMDB, and they're going to now allow you to go in and create your own classes. As most of you know, it comes with about 80 predefined classes right out of the box, and we'll talk more about that number as we go through here. But there have been requests for some time now that, you may have some unique elements in your environment. It'd be nice if you could create your own class, and you can certainly do that, and now it's through this administrative console as opposed to having to go to the back end and get down in the weeds of the system there. In doing so, they also are going to allow you to create your own icons if you want to use them there. So you can modify any of the out-of-the-box icons. You can create new icons and associate them with existing classes that are part of the CMDB or with any of the new ones. Just one housekeeping thing I forgot to mention up front. If you do have questions, use your Q&A window, and we will try to get to those as we go to the end of the field. So new classes, the ability to do the icons there, and the one that I truly love, given that I show this product a lot, is the ability to actually hide some of the classes. Most customers probably use between 5 and 10 of these 80-plus classes that are out there. So when you click on the Remedyforce CMDB and you get this huge list of things up there, it's kind of hard to maneuver through it, and it looks kind of clustered. So now with that ability to be able to hide that, I think it'll be a little more friendly for the agents who have to actually go directly into the CMDB to those classes. And that screenshot should look somewhat familiar to you. The other thing they've done, again, just trying to make this thing a lot more user-friendly, is to let, we might call it BMC_computer system. That's what BMC has used forever in both Remedy Enterprise and Remedyforce to call this data model. Now they're going to give you the option to let you go in and put in your own class name, as you can see by the arrow here. And the note that, of course, it doesn't mess up anything on the back end because it's just the display field that's changing the underlying table structure for doing imports from ADDM and BCM and all still remain the same there. So just another option that we kind of give you as you go through there. So the other thing is that you can now, the attributes, the base elements themselves, there's some things that have always been hidden in there, like the category type and item, which is, those of you who've been around Remedy for a while, is a very frequent way of doing things. They've now allowed those fields to be exposed as well. So when you get your new system updated and go in and start playing around with the CMDB and the CMDB admin console, you'll kind of see all of this, and it just gives you a little bit more flexibility. So they've also made some very good improvements around the usability. We talked about now how you can structure additional classes, renaming it, those things. But now what they've done is actually, if you're in your CMDB, you can actually search for the class that you want to look at, and as you can see there, it kind of brings it out into a view structure. So adding search is always a good thing, as opposed to, again, having to scroll, open up the class, and find it. Just makes the maneuverability a little bit better as you go through that. One great thing, as many of you know, you've got your attributes fields, your relationship fields, and your detail fields whenever you open up one of the CI records. And you would see that it's related to, in this case, that Cisco switch and, maybe a router and, maybe another server if you're part of a cluster. But that's all you could do was see the fact that it was. They now basically taken that link and hyperlinked it. So if I wanted to, from here, do a double click on here and actually drill into this other CI, this Cisco router in this case, I could do it right from here. And again, just another maneuverability and usability enhancements. But I know I will use that one quite a bit as we go through here. This is another great one, kind of mimics some of the things we could do in some of our former products out there, being able to do mass update or multi-edit, if you would. So here you're obviously looking on this screenshot, you're looking at a list of CIs, and if you wanted to, change the icon for all of your computer systems, whatever this new icon you created, You don't have to go in one by one and do that. You could basically go in and do it. You see in the examples they're doing here, you could go in and change the stage, change the priority. You can do that as a multi-select. Just check the ones you want to do it, and boom, you can do that. That will save a tremendous amount of time when you, I know on an infrequent basis, but when you have to do this, it will certainly save you some effort, again, going to that particular end. So we're talking about the CMDB, and of course one of the things most people do is try to configure some of those relationships and to be able to view it in the CI Explorer. So one of the things they've done now is, I'm sure most of you, like me, you keep getting these pop-up warnings that you're using plugins that are no longer going to be supported, so Silverlight and some of those that may be doing that. Well, first off, it's now going to be platform agnostic. It's going to move to HTML5 and JavaScript, so that should not be an issue going forward. And so that's going to help a lot and stop some of those pop-ups from coming. The other thing that they're going to do is, if you look at this screen, you've always had, when you were in the CI Explorer, you've been able to see it. And before, if you were to click on it, over on the left-hand column, it would show you, in not the most pleasing UI, if I had any open changes or tasks or things of that nature. Now they're basically displaying that much like they would on any record down in the bottom in the detailed sections. So if I'm looking at this CI, I can very much, just like in the details tab when I open up the record, I can see the history. I can see on my mouse the history, the agreements, all the assets, the knowledge articles, the service requests, the change requests, and all will actually show up right down here. Again, just an easier view. I don't have to change and go over here and click on one of the things in the left-hand column that you've got there. And of course, you're also now going to be able to analyze the impact. Most of you know in the prior release when we added impact analysis, change management, i.e. if you had a change open and you had related a couple of CIs, if one could have impacted the other, either based on the relationship or based on where they were in the change calendar, it could show you the impact analysis. And now you can actually do that same type of thing while you're maneuvering within the CI Explorer. Now you actually can go in, and if you were looking at your Explorer and you wanted to whittle it down, because sometimes they do get rather busy depending on how many relationships you define, now you can kind of filter records by status. So down here in the bottom in there, if I only want to see the open incidents, not the history of every incident that's ever been opened about that particular one, as you can see here, we're giving you some of that filtering ability to do that. And the other thing they've added now is the ability to create, again, through this new console view, custom attributes that you may want to show in there. So, you go into your CI Explorer setup in there, you indicate what instances you want over there, just like configuring any other console that we've got out there, and just provide additional data that your analyst would then be able to see. And then, as you can see, as you hover over it, here's some of that additional attributes showing up right from the CI viewer screen that you've got there. Again, just enhancements to make this thing easier to use for your agents out there as they're doing their job. Another big missing piece that I'm tickled to see that they got in here was, we've always had the ability, we talked about, seeing incident, change, problems, releases. Well, they've now added tasks in there also. So for any CI that I might be looking at, I can see if there are any tasks associated with it, and of course these are all available in reports and those types of things as well. So again, just a lot of good usability enhancements that have been added there. Now this is kind of interesting. It's a new thing called Smart Suggestions. It is beta, so just like chat was beta at one time, and then they got it to full production. This is beta, so realize that in beta is what it means. For any of you who may have seen the new Smart IT on the Remedy Enterprise side of the house, you know that product, in addition to being a much better GUI, much better UI, it did things like, if I typed in something about an incident or change or whatever, it would automatically aggregate on a single screen any related records like knowledge articles or other open incidents or templates or things of that nature without me having to click on something and getting a pop-up window. Well, that's ultimately what we're kind of doing here now for Remedyforce as well. So, based on what I'm doing, it can pop up relevant knowledge articles that you see there. It can pop up relevant templates that may be. So if I'm, working on an incident around a service called my email, if I have a bunch of email templates out there for resolving incidents or changes or whatever, they can pop up right here for me. And as you see, you kind of get those shown up. This is the new icon over here for the templates are going to show up there. And then last but not least, of course, broadcast. So we've got all of these new things that are available for us. Again, it will suggest these for you on that single screen that you're looking at here. And if you want to see how that looks in an actual record, here you can see that we've got a particular incident number open, the normal type of stuff that we would see on the record, but down in the bottom are all the suggested things that may have relevance to what it is you're trying to do as you go through and try to triage this particular record. So that's a great new feature. I'm sure it'll probably be out of beta when the next release comes along, but I think you'll find it very, very useful as you go through and do that. And you can see here they just highlighted where that takes place. Again, that's up to you as to whether you want to configure that in your environment or not, like most other things. So when you're in your Remedyforce administration under your console view, you can just come in and say whether you want that to be configured for making those smart suggestions to you while you've got a ticket open, and which things you want it to actually suggest. If you want to limit it to just, hey, here are relevant knowledge articles, and we've had a lot of people from time to time say, hey, when I'm working in an incident, instead of me having to click on search the knowledge base, can it just start to suggest things for me automatically? Well, in effect, that's what this is doing. So even if you didn't want the templates in the broadcast, but you wanted to start having it automatically suggest knowledge articles that may be relevant without you having to click on anything and doing a search in the knowledge base, this would accomplish that same thing there. So, BMC would love to get your feedback from that, and of course, there should be a lot of communication out in the BMC communities on this particular product as well. So it does work with all of the major browsers that are out there, of course. So we finally got some interesting changes to our service request. First thing we've done, and I can't tell you how many times I've been asked why this wasn't there, but the ability to separate incidents from service requests in our various views and lists that we have. Even though we had some things in the record that might have suggested which one it was, sometimes it was confusing when you're in your Remedyforce console that your only option was, look at tasks, look at changes, look at releases, or look at a combination of incidents and service requests. You now got the ability to break that out and have those be treated as separate items. So the same thing is going to be true on when I'm going to go in and now have a great ability to edit those requests, and I'll show you some of the new features that have had there. So, not going to read every one of these things that you've got here, but now we can determine, what service requests show based on permission sets, a lot more granular there. We can have predefined data in there like category, surface options. We're going to add quantity, unit price, and total price for the staff when they're looking at someone's service request. Again, optional if you want to configure that. Most of you know, in a typical service request definition, when we're configuring the questions, it's kind of a yes/no, true, false pick list type of thing in there. Now we're going to give you the ability to actually have multiple values, so a multi-select box in effect if you want there. And now you're going to also be able to do some cloning. So if the question is kind of the same except for a keyword here or there, you can actually do that. Again, things just to make it easier to either use Remedyforce and or to configure Remedyforce is what they've tried to address on there. Now, the clients themselves are going to have some improvements on when they're actually performing one of these service requests. And I'll show you a couple of screenshots in a minute, but we're going to give them some feedback if things aren't right or where there may be an error. So we'll show you some of those as we go in here.